What's up everybody, Eric here from TnT Tobacco. Today is shop day on TnT Tobacco, and today I will be making an ashtray out of this solid piece of oak. So let's get to it. So today it is shop day on TnT Tobacco, and today I'm going to be making an ashtray out of this piece of white oak. It is 2 inches thick by almost 8 inches across. So it's roughly going to be an 8-inch round ashtray, and it's going to have a relatively thick shelf on it, so it holds cigars nice and firmly. There's a lot of, I have a couple ashtrays that the lip just isn't enough. You kind of have to like really try to balance your cigar on there, but I'm going to make kind of my custom one here. So I'm going to get this block proportioned up. I'm going to take off kind of the excess edges over on my saw, and then we'll get this chopped up over here on the lathe back here. So let's get to that. So the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to just go corner to corner to find a center with a straight edge here. So I found my center. I'm going to take a compass and just kind of make sure I get that nice and firm in. I'm going to go out to the edge just barely, so kind of the lead barely touches the edge. Let me shrink this up a little bit. And then I will draw a circle so I know kind of where my meat is going to be. So when I bring it over to my saw, I can cut off these areas. So I have excess over here, excess on the corners. So I'm going to chop those off with the chop saw, and I'll be right back. So the next thing I have to do, I have to mount my faceplate to my piece of wood, and using the center marks, just draw them out so you can line up the holes of the faceplate so you can make it nice and centered. So if all 4 holes are lined up with a center mark, you should be good to go. So this is actually going to be, and you want to put it on, this is going to be the side that I'm going to be hollowing out later, so the screw marks aren't going to matter because they are going to be removed. So this is where like the ashtray is going to be facing up.
Oh yeah, and don't forget to safety up. You don't want to be breathing this or getting stuff in your eyes. So face mask and respirator works pretty good.
So here I am just squaring up the back of the blank. I've already rounded off the edges, as you can see. So what I am doing now is I am putting a recess on the back of the blank to fit the size of the jaws of my chuck, because then I will be able to use the chuck to turn it around and remove the faceplate, so I can now start hollowing out the side that I want to hollow out. Okay, so what I've done here, I've made a mortise in the bottom, which is going to fit my chuck, which is actually going to expand into it and hold it on so I can turn this around and start hollowing out the other side. And right at the beginning, you could see there was a pencil mark there. That is going to be basically the edge of my shelf. I am using a carbide square tool to rough everything out. It, I believe, is a 10.5 millimeter. I would like to get a larger one, but that's what I have right now, and it works pretty good. I move over to the side because I noticed it was wobbling just a little bit. So sometimes when you turn around and go from a faceplate to a chuck, there might be some weight issues. It might not be exactly centered on each other. So sometimes you have to do that. And then here I am just hollowing out the middle of the ashtray with my carbide scraper. So now that I've got it mostly to the thickness I want, I'm going to change out my tool right here, and I'm going to actually switch over to a round carbide tool because I want the bottom edge down at the bottom to basically be the radius of the round cutter. So I stopped probably about a 1/4 inch shy of my final depth, and then I come in with the round cutter to finish out the shaping of the bottom and basically give that bottom edge the same radius as the round cutter. Also, the round cutter is good to just kind of make your final passes to get as smooth as possible before you go on to sanding beforehand, sanding after using the carbide cutter. Here I'm just rounding off the lip just a little bit, just so it's not a hard, sharp edge, and then hitting the face of the ledge basically to clean that up, and then again going nice fine, as you can see, nice fine little particles flying off, just taking very, very light cuts to get it as smooth as possible before sanding. All right, so now I have it nice and shaped out where I want it. So this is the thickness I want it. I've gone through it and made as clean of a pass as I could with my round carbide, and it's pretty good. So now I'm gonna start hitting it with sandpaper and work my way up from 80 all the way up to 400. And let's get to it. Make sure you wear a definitely make sure you wear a respirator for this one if you haven't been already, because you don't want to be breathing in all these particles from the sanding. All right, so now that I've sanded this to 400 grit, I'm going to just clean it up with some mineral spirits, and it should actually show the grain pretty well. And then I will hit it with a sanding sealer. So there's just a little bit of grain that's kind of running opposite of the spin, so I will just kind of clean that out, just to get all the dust out of the grain. And I did hit this with 400, but even then, there's still a little bit that kind of makes it into these kind of little pockets of space that you just can't get rid of because you just keep digging more and more holes into it. So I'm gonna just clean those out by hand. Make sure all the wood dust is out as much as possible, because that's gonna show up when I put sanding sealer on it or whatever. So you want to have them nice and clean. But all in all, I mean, that looks pretty nice. So it's gonna be pretty cool. So yeah, there's just some really deep kind of spots in the grain that just kind of clean them up as much as possible. All right, so I'm gonna let this evaporate off for a little bit, and then I will come back and hit it with some sanding sealer. So after the sanding sealer, I hit the ashtray with 400 grit just to take off any high spots from the sanding sealer, and then I put on 3 coats of poly and sanding quickly with 400 grit between each coat. And then I was ready to turn it back around. I've moved the ashtray into my large bowl jaws, so now I can finish up the bottom of the ashtray. I'm just going to take my square carbide here, and I want to basically put where it's going to rest on the table as far out from the center so it sits nice and flat on a table, and that's why I kind of made this large rim. And again, I'm going to hit this with sanding paper 80 through 400, and again I'm going to poly that as well. So here I'm just wiping off the excess sawdust and everything before I start laying poly down, because you don't want all that sawdust inside your poly. Once I was done with the poly, now I'm going to basically cut my cigar rests. So I've marked down the center, and I've actually offset the two from the center line. So if there's two large cigars, they won't actually run into each other. And now I'm just, again, wiping it clean and put another layer poly. All right, so here is my finished product. I now have a nice offset cigar ashtray that actually has a nice large lip here, and cigar should be very easy to balance compared to, like, I have a little Rocky Patel one here, and you can see the lip is so thin, and it's like it's really hard to get stuff lined up. So this might be my new go-to. Like I said, I just use poly for the finish. It does look pretty decent. I mean, it's got a nice shine on the outside, and it's got a decent shine as well. It's just not as smooth as I would like it to be. I just need to work on my finishes, I guess, and maybe use a different finish next time. Something specifically for turning, maybe like a friction polish or something like that. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and since this is just going to be mine and it's not going to anybody, I am happy with the results. But I definitely like to try making some other ones, and hopefully people might want those. So if you happen to want one of these, you can shoot me a message, either leave a comment down below, or my email is also on the About tab for my channel. And yeah, hopefully you like this video. I'll probably be doing a little bit more woodworking videos in the future, just because that's kind of what I'm doing right now for the most part. I will try to make some more tobacco reviews and whatnot, but I figured, a nice little change of pace and just something that I'm working on, and it is sort of tobacco related. But there you go. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, comment, question, feedback down below. Also, you can follow me on the various social medias that are showing up on the screen right now. Also, check out any of the videos showing up on the corner as well, I believe on this side. So until next time, thanks for watching TnT Tobacco. See you guys.